And I'm watching the teams go back and forth. I'm watching the turnovers, the sloppiness, the missed shots. I'm watching it unfold as Brunson and Bridges are shooting 7 for 23 from three-point range. I'm watching the Knicks fall behind, and I'm hearing the music that I heard so many times when we want a turnover or we want a defensive stop, and then we want to score. And then I'm watching missed shot after missed shot and just ugliness. I'm not going to get on Jalen Brunson for flopping the way the rest of the country is because you're all just haters, and that's fine. Players flop all the time. Players complain all the time. There's stuff going on without gesticulations that you don't see or hear about, but we know because we talk to umpires or we see it because we know our own players. There are little subtle things that coaches do. Not every coach is a Bobby Knight type coach. Phil Jackson is one of the great examples where he seems pretty calm, with his strap hanger shoulders as a coach. He crossed his arms. If you're watching this on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, or if you're listening, just cross your arms and pretend that I had very wide shoulders, which I don't. And Phil Jackson would just look at you sternly, trying to intimidate Jake O'Donnell or Earl Strom or Daryl Garrison. Not going to happen. Throwback to some old referees. I was thinking about how that game was reffed, where they just let those guys play. And I thought that it was a throwback to a physical game, low-scoring game. The Knicks lost 194. But a game like from the 80s and 90s, which to me was the glory days of the NBA. It was better players. It was better basketball. Yes, it was tough with the Pistons, the Bulls, Pat Riley. Showtime was something, but forget the Nuggets scoring 150. There were games in the 80s and 90s, playoff games in the 70s. That's how it happens. But the skill of it, back then, my view is those players were hugely skilled players. I watched last night's game, and it's fun. The Pistons, I had not really focused on them much this year. I felt a little like Barkley in that regard. Obviously, I'd heard and know about Cade Cunningham, but my God, just soft. What a touch he has. But I'm watching the game unravel, and I'm thinking about James Dolan because it took a half, Coca. That's it. The first half, I sat there without notes, without fumbling with our rundown, without thinking about anything. And then at halftime, I just said, all right, back to work, back to my life, post-sports, no longer a fan. And I started thinking about how to describe this game and talk about the various things we were going to talk about. And I was looking at James Dolan because they would show him, not purposefully, of course, but he sits behind the basket. When you're the owner and you have a choice to sit anywhere, why you sit behind the basket is beyond me. You got to go full Mickey Harrison. You sit at the scorer's table right there. If you've been to Miami Heat game, you know where Mickey Harrison sits. Those are the best seats to have. Behind the basket's fine, but not good enough. But James Dolan was sitting there, and he looked grumpy to me, and I facially recognized how grumpy he was and how unhappy he was, because I think he was looking at the team and realizing that he trades for Karl-Anthony Towns. He trades for Mikal Bridges. That trade for Bridges, by the way, just a shocking display of insanity with what they gave up for that player. Forget the actual players, just 5 first-round picks on their own for Bridges is funny to me. $25 million player who's done after next year, and I guess they have to extend him to make it worthwhile to make the trade they made. So what? He becomes another max player? Dolan's looking at his team. He's looking at his RSN revenue decrease. Madison Square Garden Network is worth way less than it was today, than it was tomorrow. It'll be worth less the day after tomorrow than it is tomorrow. And he's looking at these players mature in terms of pay. And does he see a championship caliber team? I want you to put a pin in those words because we're going to address it later in the show. Championship caliber. We used to say that a lot when you run a team. It's one of those special words with sustained winning. We want to be competitive year in, year out. We want to build a championship caliber organization. I have to make a confession as we're about to enter the conclave and the doors are being locked. waiting for white smoke, knowing we're going to get quite a bit of black smoke at the end of each day. I never really knew what championship caliber meant because we were building teams to win games. We figured the more games you win, the best chance you have to be in the playoffs. It's not even about what your salary is because, strangely, executives don't care. If the owner gives you a $50 million payroll or a $150 million payroll, it's like closet space in New York. There's always room for more. You'd want another player, a better player, more money. You make do with what you have. But you evaluate the people who put the teams together, not based on what constraints they have. You evaluate it based on the reality of what is at the level that the team is. It's not speculation. We don't evaluate, and we're going to revisit this too later. Oh, he had a lot of injuries. A lot of injuries, can't evaluate the job he did. Or we don't say, oh, you had a low payroll, tough year, can't evaluate you that way. No, you evaluate based on what your expectations are for the team, including your own delusions about the team that you're building. So Jimmy Dolan's looking at his team, and I was thinking to myself, I don't ever want to talk to him, ever. I mean, unless he wants me to run the Knicks. But, no, I wouldn't even do that. But does he look out at that game last night and say, yeah, we are a conference champion. We are an NBA champion. We are a championship caliber team. I really assume he doesn't. And if you're a Knicks fan, you have to hope that he doesn't. And my last thing on the Knicks game is, when did Tom Thibodeau start looking like Jeff Van Gundy?